Have you ever wondered why games today suck? Maybe it's because back then your dad didn't believe that esports was a thing and made you go to college instead, and now a 13-year-old YouTuber makes more money than you. Whatever the reason, we're going back in time to see what made games great when gaming companies took risks and chased innovative storytelling without worrying about being cancelled. Get in, loser, we're going time hopping. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone if you are an American, is probably one of the most overplayed games on YouTube. It seems that everyone likes to laugh and make fun at the original PS1 version of the game, which was released in 2001, but no one wants to play with its less like younger sibling, the PS2 version. Back in 2003, Electronic Arts, along with Warthog Games, really ran with the motto, "It's so nice, they'll play it twice," and remade the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone for PS2. The game follows the plot of the first book and movie, where Harry Potter, a young lizard, attends his first year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and along with his friends stops Lord Voldemort from returning to power. Fans of the game felt like it was a cash grab, but what isn't a cash grab with EA these days? Because the game was released a year later than the sequel to the game, which was Chamber of Secrets. Can you guess why this upset fans? Well, they were upset because the developers just reused the map and assets from the Chamber of Secrets and slapped a new title on it. It seems like most players felt like it was the Ron Weasley version of a hand-me-down. EA tried to bury the game, making it impossible to trace. Their sketchy behavior led me to not be able to find any information on the original retail price of the game, but we can assume that it cost the same as Chamber of Secrets, which was about $50. If you think the retail price is a mystery, you should see the information on the copy sold. I could not find any information on the PS2 2003 release, but the PlayStation 1 version sold 8 million copies by May 2003. As you can imagine, the critics had their panties in a bunch when reviewing this game, giving it mixed reviews which praised the faithful adaptation of the story and the Hogwarts environment, whilst criticizing the repetitive gameplay and lack of innovation. But how could you be innovative when you were working on dropping one of the biggest games of the 2000s? Disney Stitch Experiment 626. Enough fiddling with your sorting hat. Let's see what magic this game has to offer. The game starts off just like the movie, where Hagrid rolls in on a metal death wagon and drops off a tatted baby at an unsuspecting couple's house. Harry grows up and receives a letter to visit a Hogwarts, and Hagrid picks him up to take him shopping whilst the back-to-school deals are still valid. We go to pick up a wand, but the way the wand salesman describes wands are kind of sus.
Holly and phoenix feather. 11 inches. Nice and supple.
So we then decide to destroy his shop. He was so impressed by our magical abilities that he had us do this obstacle course filled with jelly beans and danger. At the end of this course was the Flipendo spell, which helped us knock back things like Harry knocks those beans into his throat. I was starting to question the limits of things Harry would put into his mouth, which made me scared for these little fellas because they were about to get eaten. Luckily, we were feeling a bit stuffed, so we rallied up the cattle and put them into neat little cages to eat later. We then found this golden chest with a saucy pic of a woman named Alberta Toothill. The wand salesman then promised us that he had more saucy pics in the book behind him, but we can only get it if we complete his challenge. Hagrid then shows up with an owl and told me that I could keep it, which is crazy because I'm supposed to be a 5-year-old kid with no knowledge on pigeonholing.
That's it, I'm dead.
We then rode all the way from London to England just so that Harry could be sorted into the lame-o house Gryffindor. Harry meets Ron, who from here on out would always be tired. He immediately starts asking us about the 3rd floor.
I really don't know.
As if we would know after being here for literally 0.5 seconds. I then started flipendoing Ron's brother Percy in the face, and due to his lack of reaction, I knew he would be the coolest prefect around. Back in our room, Ron tells us that we need to go and check out his brother's illegal store, and being the tatted up rebel child we are, Harry agrees. Nothing ever comes easy in life though, as we find out that we have to sneak past Percy, who was crying in the library after being flipendoed in the face by a child.
Have a good look around, Harry, and if you want to buy anything, just ask.
I had a look around the shop, but everything was a bit overpriced, so I decided to take my money elsewhere and order my stink pellets online. The doors look kind of heavy to open, but at least by the end of the year, Harry would end up being the buffest 10-year-old around.
Okay, Harry, it's been a long day. I'm really tired, and I'm off to bed.
People like to make fun of Ron for being so sleepy, but he did work hard today by holding that lantern during the boat ride.
Wicked!
The next morning we get notified that we actually have to go to class at the school, so we follow Ron down into the dungeons to attend a potions lesson. I stopped in between to talk to some kids at the school, and I found out that suspiciously they all had the same voice.
There's more to life than Quidditch, you know. Potter. Anything interesting happened last night? The Chudley Cannons are doing well this year.
I don't hang out with copies, only cats, so I made my way down to the potions lesson. Coming down from our room, it confirmed my suspicion that there were exactly 10 kids who attended the school, including this weird duck-faced girl. Down in the dungeons, we get to meet Draco Malfoy, who is the smartest kid in school.
I think I can tell who the wrong sort are for myself, thanks.
Buzz off, Potter.
We reject his offer to be study buddies and finally make it to our potions class. Snape kind of looks like Pam's landlord from The Office, but he acts nothing like her and instead gives us an assignment to collect 3 ingredients for a health potion.
Make sure you have these ingredients for your next potions lesson. It's Defense Against the Dark Arts with Professor Quirrell next. Class dismissed.
Our next lesson was Defense Against the Dark Farts, so we followed Hermione this time, as Ron had to go take a mid-lesson nap.
Potter, your turn. The Lumos spell book is located on the other side of the crawl space. Find it, and the spell will be yours. You must then return here to the classroom.
The school forces the kids to do dangerous things to earn their keep, and so Harry had to crawl through another hole for a spell to keep guy trashes and ghosts away. Harry then decided to jump into an endless pit because he really wondered what death tastes like. We then had to do some manual labor to knock a giant ladder from the sky. With the Loomis spell acquired, we had to run across the room, hoping that the floor won't collapse and kill us like it did the 2 students before us. It's not a shocker that the school only has 10 kids left, because these lessons were designed to trap and kill them. Harry then walked in on these ghost ladies who died after playing a game of Monopoly. They were really angry, so we had to put our foot down and take them down under. It turns out that the teacher has been wanting to get rid of these ghosts for years, and because of our bravery, allowed us back into the classroom just to give us a B.
Harry, I'll show you where the flying lesson is. Follow me.
Ron finally woke up from his nap just in time for our flying lesson. On our way there, I realized that you could spot Harry from afar just by the way he runs, because no other student in the school could ever pull off his wide-stanced walk. Madam Cooch then tells us to complete the course by flying through as many hoops as possible. It turns out I'm not really good at flying or putting things into holes, but the teacher didn't pay that much attention and gave us an A+ for effort.
Truly excellent. You receive an A+.
A kid named Neville felt silly and slammed his stick into a wall, which inspired Malfoy to steal his ball and hide it. Harry didn't like that, and so we were forced to chase a kid around the school just so that we can look cool in front of our peers.
What are you waiting for, Potter? Give up now if you're afraid.
We finally catch up to him and agree to fight him in a wizarding duel with the only 2 spells we know. We still needed to collect those ingredients for Snape's class, so we went to Hagrid to ask for special treatment since we were now his best friends.
Be careful, mind. Wouldn't go wandering round at night.
Hagrid doesn't want us to go into the forest at night because that's the only time he gets to practice doing his naked moon dance. Let's take a moment to appreciate how well Hagrid keeps his garden maintained, because Dumbledore makes him cut the grass with a pair of children's scissors since lawnmowers didn't exist in their time. Out in the forest, I decide to test the bounds of Harry's morality by drowning this poor forest rugrat in the local river. Harry is the boy who lived for a reason, and that reason is that he gets you before you get him. I then realized that we were supposed to throw the gnomes into the tree's trick hole, which created these cool green lantern stairs that led to the cave where we found our first ingredient. At that point, I was kind of curious what Ron had been doing whilst I was risking my life. It turns out that Ron doesn't do much, and all that standing around made him tired enough to want to go to bed during broad daylight.
There's nothing more to do, so I'm for bed.
Later that night, Ron wakes us up to remind us of the duel we agreed to. Hermione decides that she wants to intervene, which sends Ron so far off the edge that he mistakes himself for his brother Percy.
You, go back to bed.
I don't understand why Ron is such a wean face towards Hermione, but she comes with us anyway. We follow Ron down to the 3rd floor, and both of them expect Harry to do all the work by pushing open the doors for them. He is the most physically buff guy in school though, but brains are more important than gains, which Harry lacks because he couldn't see that the whole fight with Malfoy was a trap.
It's a good job I let Professor Snape know. He'll be there any second now. Bye-bye.
Malfoy!
Hermione conveniently knows where to find a spellbook that will get us out of here, but she's not going to get it. That's a job that we have to do all on our lonesome. I didn't have to travel far to find those books because it was conveniently in the middle of the library. I was starting to feel like this whole night was a prank from Hermione, where she would knock me out and give me a swirly in the girls' bathroom. Some ghost then showed up, who we had to compel with the power of Lumos to get rewarded with a massive chest. Nothing good ever comes from looking at chests though, because before we knew it, we were getting beaten up by these flying books. Nobody in the school reads except for Hermione, so I knew she was the one who sicked them on me. I didn't want to confront her about it, because frankly I was scared of her and her dogs. The next morning, Ron has his usual banter with Hermione before heading off to class.
What do you think they're doing? Keeping us Hermione like that locked up in a school? If Hermione needs exercise, that one does.
We had to collect another spell, which would allow us to jump real high, even taller than Hagrid.
Hey!
Harry then had to fight more ghosts, which was starting to get annoying, and I regretted coming to magic school in the first place. I also had to kill and skin some tortoises to show my loyalty to the gargoyles, so that they could help me get out of here. I died 3 times during this lesson, and it really wasn't worth it because our C-word teacher ended up only giving us a C for our effort. Our potions lesson's due date was slowly creeping over our shoulders, and we still haven't collected the rest of the ingredients. I did this on purpose though, because Harry was indeed the boy who lived, so Snape could be the teacher who waited. Ron then tells us that he'll meet us at Hagrid's, which was kind of awkward, because afterwards we both kept going in the same direction. The best thing to do in that situation is to let out frequent periods of awkward laughs and avoiding eye contact at all times. Hagrid tells us about the dogs, but I didn't care enough to actually be interested in anything he said, so I'll just pretend that I know what's going on from here on out.
I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that.
That night at the Halloween feast, Professor Quirrell barges into the room screaming about some internet troll that commented on his selfie saying he bets he has a 5 head. Harry has never met an internet troll in real life, so he and Ron decides to go and check it out in the girls' bathroom. The troll was upset that we had interrupted it while it was unclogging some logs and decided to fight us. By us I meant Harry, because Ron and Hermione were cowards, and Harry should have rather taken Malfoy up on his offer to be friends. Them just standing there while their friends was getting ripped apart by an actual troll was a real Chad move, which intimidated our beta troll so much that he had a heart attack and died. Ron was tired from hiding behind a rock, and so it signaled that it was time for us to hit the hay. The following day, Harry still hasn't found his lessons timetable and finds out from Hermione that our potions lesson with Snape has finally arrived. Because we were procrastinating, we had to go out to the forest quickly to collect our ingredients. Since we were tardy, Snape cornered us with a pop quiz, which we failed because this was literally our 3rd day at magic school.
Thought you wouldn't open a book before coming, eh, Potter?
It takes a big man to bully a child, which is why Snape is my favorite character. He doesn't let the criticism of others stop him from living his best life. We then got lost after wandering off during a lesson and stumbled into a dark forest with ghost dogs. The dogs didn't like when I asked who's a good boy and started attacking us for assuming their goodness. I cheated the game by standing close to this bridge, and I Luma spammed them before the shelter came to pick them up. We then bumped into another troll, but we spared him because he was glitching out after his brother was murdered the night before by human children. I think the forest creatures had formed a union against Harry because they all had it out for him. I finally got us out of the forest just in time for the teacher to give us a B. I was mad at the teachers for always giving me low grades, so I taught her a lesson by stomping all over her crops and taking a dump on her shrooms. It was Hermione who was tired for once, which shocked me so much that I had to switch off the game entirely and vow to never play until I finish my review.
Okay, Harry, it's been a long day. I'm really tired, and I'm off to bed.
The gameplay section of this video is now over, but don't be Griffin sore because we still need to assign it house points to see what made it a good game. I won't be focusing on factors such as soundtrack, audio, or graphics because that is for noobs. I've never really cared about Harry Pottery, but this game might have turned me into a Harry Potter fangirl. The game itself ran extremely smooth, with no deal-breaking glitches or bugs, and the plot never felt like it was lacking something or that it was forced, which sometimes happens when a game is based off of a book or a movie. The school environment felt a bit empty at first, with only about 10 students on the entire map, but I quickly got distracted by its beauty and authenticity. I've got to say that the level of detail they put in for a 2003 game was really impressive, and I appreciate the effort and time that the developers and level designers took to add things into the game that brought the world alive. The missions or levels incorporated what needed to be included to keep the player's engagement without dragging out the story, so in simple terms, the missions were kept short and sweet. The characters themselves were also pretty mirrored to who they were supposed to represent. I could actually look at Harry and be like, yeah, that's Harry, and not feel like it was just a shell of a character they were trying to mimic. I like the fact that the game loop and its difficulty never plateaued at a certain point, and it actually got harder the longer I played. Overall, I think it was a good game that fully incorporated all the elements required for it to be a great game. Anyway, let me know if you want a part 2 on this game and what you thought of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the 2003 version, when you played it, or if you would play it in the future. Also, don't forget to let me know what games you want me to play next, and if you'd like, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. That's it for me. I'll see you again later sometime and someplace with another video. Until next time, bye.
Earwax flavour?